I don't think Dr. King would endorse any of us. I think what he would call upon the American people to do is to hold us accountable. And this goes to the core differences, I think, in this campaign. I believe change does not happen from the top down, it happens from the bottom up. Dr. King understood that. It was those women who were willing to walk instead of ride the bus. It were union workers who were willing to take on violence and intimidation to get the right to organize. It was women who decided, you know, I'm as smart as my husband, I better get the right to vote. Them arguing, mobilizing, agitating, and ultimately forcing elected officials to be accountable. I think that's the key. So that has been a hallmark of my career. Transparency and accountability, getting the American people involved. That's how we're going to bring about change. That's why I want to be president of the United States, to respect the power of the American people to bring about change.
In this society, we've relied on people to like advocate for us, you know, and so there's a lot, if we have a cause, you know, like we need a lobbyer or a lobbyist to like speak for us. So I mean, I don't really think that that's become powerful for the people, you know. So I mean, I would say that self-advocacy and loud advocacy and like is the way to go. You can't vote on everything. You can't wait for an initiative to come out to vote, to feel free and do what you want to do. I mean, you have to do it, you know. I'm not under any illusion either that any sort of president within this framework is going to be able to really get things going for the mass of people, you know. To me, voting is just voting, like a small piece of it.
Like, I think often it's easy for politicians to make decisions behind closed doors. But when they see someone show up and says, "Do you see how your decision has hurt me?" And then they look into their eyes, like, you have to be connected. You know, you have to be able to feel that, you know. Another part of, I think, building social change is also about believing in creating a change in government, but also not becoming completely dependent on it, and finding ways outside of, like, government organizing or, like, outside of lobbying or legislation to educate or, like, to connect to other people to let them know what's happening, you know?
Just learning about the different issues in the community, feeling empowered when I was able to, you know, be a part of a certain topic, say like education or health, and being able to have my voice heard is really empowering. You know, and also having those conversations with people in the community, because it's something that, you know, there might be a certain issue that I'm learning more about as I go to community groups and different advocacy meetings on a certain topic. Being able to take that information back to and talk to my friends and families and neighbors about. And you also kind of hear their concerns. They may have a different opinion than you. And so being able to kind of talk over those things and get an understanding of where people are coming from, and then also bring those back to the group or invite them to come and share their opinion. To have an honest discussion about, you know, and get an understanding from different levels of what people's different perspectives are.
What can grassroots advocacy do? Well, a couple of people that have some education around a kitchen table in Hilltop, Tacoma started a small school that became a school and a grocery store that got funded by the state that created this building. That's now a tremendous hub for this community in education. So that's what grassroots advocacy can do.
I think citizen advocacy refers to people from the community who represent the issues that matter most to those who are affected. And I think it's a very valuable service. I think it's valuable because citizen advocates help bring a voice to those who wouldn't otherwise be heard.
Well, grassroots and citizen advocacy is many, many things. It can be as simple as picking up a phone and dialing somebody and telling them about an issue. It could be reporting a crime. It could be writing a letter to the newspaper. Most importantly, I always hope that it will be voting. But it's important because we live in a representative democracy. And if people aren't active in communicating with their elected officials what they need and what's going on, then they're left to guess. So I know that as citizens, and personally as a citizen, there's been things that have concerned me, and I've talked to my neighbors and gone to my representatives, and you can create change. And that's really what the foundation of our entire country is about. So is it important? Yeah, it's very, very important. The lack of it, and our democracy fails.
Citizens who advocate on behalf of issues are usually really closely tied to those issues. And so there's a certain level of personal connection or importance that those issues have to the people that they're actually representing, or the issues that they're actually supporting or not. With paid positions or paid lobbyists, they typically represent big organizations or corporations or big groups of people, and they're usually told what side of the issue to support and or to oppose a specific issue. And so it's a lot maybe less near and dear to their heart and more something that they're doing to benefit the organization that they're representing, and not something that they necessarily believe in.
The lawmakers hear from the same people all the time, and pretty soon they kind of start tuning it out. So it becomes really important for them to start hearing from people they've never heard from before, and getting some fresh perspectives on some of the same problems, just new people that can probably give them better insight onto the problems.
For us, at the Children's Alliance, we know that we are powerless without the voices of families and kids behind us. We're powerless if we can't hold legislators and elected officials accountable to decisions that they make. We are voiceless without the families and kids standing with us and beside us to make sure that lawmakers not only hear us and when they take a vote, but that they know that we're constantly watching, even after session is over, on how those laws are implemented. It's about accountability. We need grassroots individuals to be the power behind the voice.
Good government and good government policy cannot exist without activism and advocacy by our citizens. And it can't just be once a year or once every few years when you vote. That's not enough. On a daily basis, not just the elected officials, but also the bureaucrats, the people that administer the policies of the elected officials, need to be engaged with the citizens where some of the projects and the policies and the resources, the taxpayer resources, how they're going to be spent. It's just essential that you have the voice of the citizen on a regular basis, that you're sort of checking in with to see if the policies that you're implementing on the ground or would actually meet the aspirations and the visions of the citizenry.
What a citizen lobbyist can bring is much more powerful often than what a full-time lobbyist or a contract lobbyist can bring. And that's because they're bringing their own story. That's because they're bringing their own perspective on how an issue has affected them. When a legislator or an elected official sees a citizen or an individual who's from their district, not only do they see a vote, but they might see the coalition that's behind that person. They might see the neighborhood that's behind the issue. They might see an entire, thousands of children standing behind that person, and they're telling their own story from their heart, and hopefully the legislator or the elected official realizes they've taken time out of their day to come down to Olympia or come to the elected official's office to tell their story.
Going down in the state capitol is a lot about education. And it comes back to grassroots education. As one person, you can step up and speak to a legislator and educate them about your personal experience, And I think it's a shift to go from coming up in the ghetto and understanding when people are talking really hood or just really street, and have completely lost faith in the government and lost faith in the systems because of all the ways in which the system tends to perpetuate oppression. It's hard to talk to people like that about, well, it's really important to go to the state capitol and represent yourself and represent your voice and talk about the way oppression impacts you, because on top of oppression, that ability to stand up and speak out admits being hurt, is incredibly overwhelming. And I think that that's where allies come in. Some people don't realize their own strength and power, even small networks like families. If a whole family takes a stance on one political issue that everybody can agree on, then that's a political change, and that's a collective, and that's a tangible thing that people can do.